year now since I had to evacuate the city and come here to my retreat. It was about a year ago that the countrywide attack on the power grid happened, which plunged our country into chaos. When the grid first went down, at first the government was promising that things would get restored soon, so people remained calm at first. But after a few weeks, and after people got hungry, then people started rioting and looting, and things got really violent and dangerous. But the smart ones, they fled the cities before the rioting and the looting began.
Are you okay? Unit 15, we heard gunshots. Are you okay? Unit 15, respond if you are okay. Respond. Attention all units. Units 2 through 5, start heading northwest along the ridge. Units 6 through 10, you guys head straight north. And at units 11 through 16, you guys head northeast of the ridge. We need to locate Unit 15. Let's go.
Hey everybody, in today's video it's going to be more of a beginner's how to prep type of video. But first thing, welcome to my bug out property. There's nothing better than being out here in the middle of nowhere right when it's starting to get dark. And I hope everybody enjoyed the little scenario video at the beginning of this video. It was fun to film, but please excuse my bad acting, and I definitely don't know how to make a Hollywood level type of film. But anyways, let's get on with the video. Now, I do not like doing fear porn type videos. However, with everything that's going on in this world right now, if you are not putting your prepping into overdrive, you might be suffering a little bit of what they call that cognitive dissonance. Now, I say that because at the time of this video, we have two pretty major conflicts going on in the world, and both of those conflicts could really explode into more regional type wars that could suck the United States into it. Plus, we're also just a couple of weeks away. At the time of filming this, we're just a couple of weeks away from the presidential election. And I really kind of feel like that no matter who wins or who loses, that we're going to see a lot of political violence and civil unrest and stuff like that across the country. But what really concerns me is that both of these conflicts, these wars that are happening right now, how easily, again, that they can expand into regional conflicts, and these would end up including countries that do have nuclear weapons. And then besides these wars that are happening right now that could suck us into them, we are also having constant cyber attacks, huge cyber attacks on our systems, and it could very well one day we could wake up where a cyber attack has happened that's taken down our ability to spend money, our ability to get money out of the ATMs, our ability to swipe our bank cards to get gas, our ability to even get gas out of the pumps, the ability to get trucks or semi-trucks of food to grocery store. So with having said all that, with having laid all that out there for you, folks, I don't know about you, but I have been very serious about my prepping lately because I believe that we are closer to a SHTF situation than we have been in a long, long time. So let's talk about the first thing that I believe that all preppers need to have really set and ready to go. And that first thing is shelter. Now, most of us already have houses, but if you live in a major city and if you have to evacuate that city, where are you going to go to? And wherever you go to, do you have shelter there? And if you don't have shelter, is your plan just to bug out into the middle of the woods and try to bushcraft it? And then if that is your plan, to just bug out into the middle of the woods and bushcraft it, would you be able to survive that first winter? Would you be able to survive some type of infection that you would get from a tick bite or some other type of bug bite or scratch or something like that? So do you have good, solid shelter in place already in your plans for if you bug in or if you have to bug out? So if you don't have solid shelter for both your bug in and bug out, if I were you, I would be thinking real hard and putting good solid plans into place now for this. I mean, do you have a relative that's out in the countryside that you could go stay with if you had to bug out? And if so, have you had these conversations with them? Now me, I'm lucky. I was able to get this bug out property out in the middle of nowhere. I'm also very lucky that this is far enough out that there's not really going to be much of any people that would reach this place on foot. And then even if they do, I am surrounded by other like-minded people, a lot of other preppers that live around me, and it would be very difficult for somebody or a group of people to reach my cabin out here in the middle of nowhere. And now let's talk about the next important item that I feel like is next in importance on prepping, and that is water, so you don't die of thirst in a grid down societal collapse situation. But first, really fast, if you were watching this video on YouTube, you should come over to Rumble and watch my channel there. A lot of us preppers are going over to Rumble because Rumble does not censor us like YouTube does. Just go over to Rumble and search ethical preparedness in the search bar, and while you're there, search for some of your other favorite prepping YouTube channels. You'll probably find them there. But let's get back to the topic of water. If the grid goes down, if we have a massive cyber attack or something like that and the water quits running out of your tap, do you have a way to procure more water? Or even if you live out in the countryside and if we have some kind of an EMP or something that might take out your well pump, do you again have a way to procure more water? And then if you do have a way to procure more water, maybe you have lakes or streams or you have one of those old-fashioned hand pumps, do you have a way to sanitize and or purify that water so it doesn't kill you? Now, my favorite way to purify water is just using the good old-fashioned water Berkey purifier. It doesn't take any electricity, it's gravity fed. I have tested it out in some really bad water, so I buy extra of the filters for them. And yes, you can still buy Berkey. In fact, Berkey is actually suing the EPA, I think it is, for their government overreach. And I will put a link to Berkey down below if you want to check them out, but that is definitely my go-to for purifying water in a grid down situation. And then I have backup other filters, and then I also have plenty of really pure pool shock for sanitizing water if absolutely needed. But in 100% transparency, I am not where I want to be with water out here. We do have streams out here. Other friends of mine do have small ponds and there are lakes and stuff around here, but I want a good solid source of water within a few feet of my cabin. Unfortunately, my little creek has a tendency to run dry in the super hot dog days of summer, or in this case, we've had drought the last month, and so it's bone dry right now. Now, luckily in the fall and winter and the spring, it's bubbling and it's pretty, but again, when it gets in the really hot, dry dog days of summer, it does dry out. So what I'm looking to get eventually when I get the money to pay cash for it, so I'm gonna install, hopefully, one of those old-fashioned hand pump wells, something that doesn't require electricity or anything like that out here. You know, one of those old hand-fashioned hand pump wells like you would see at your great-great-grandmother's house. Now let's talk about medication. Are you on any life-saving medications that you have to take? And then if so, do you have any of that put back? And I'll give you just a little tip. Jace Medical, you can get a year's worth. You can get most of your chronic condition medications through them. You can get a year's worth of that, so that if we do hit suddenly a grid down situation and you just can't run to the pharmacy to pick up your medication, at least you would have a year's worth of that medication to at least get you through a year, where hopefully things can get back on track at that point. Now, luckily, I am not on any medications. I'm very proud of that for being in my 50s, but I do have the Jace case that has the most common antibiotics in it, just in case somebody was to get a tick bite out here that gets infected or has Lyme disease in it, or just in case we get some kind of a cut or some other, or real bad pneumonia that would have, that gets infection, something like that. And I will put a link down below if you want to check out Jace Medical. And if you have been watching my channel at all lately, then you know how serious I have been lately about learning how to make my own natural medicine from the common weeds and trees that grow around you. And it's really gotten to the point that I will use this medicine that I make myself even more than medicine, over-the-counter medicine that I buy, that you would buy from the pharmacy. And I will shamelessly plug the book that I wrote that is over 400 pages of simple step-by-step directions of how you can make this medicine, again, from the common weeds and trees that grow around you. So again, if you have high cholesterol or high blood pressure, or you get headaches a lot, or just common ailments like that, whether they're chronic or acute, like headaches and aches and pains and stuff like that, again, check out the link down below to the book that I wrote, and if you purchase it, you will help feed my kid. Now let's talk about food, and this is a common mistake that I see with a lot of new preppers. A lot of new preppers just think that, well, if a grid down situation happens, I'm going to garden and I'm going to hunt my food. And the first thing that you have to remember is, number one, when things get tough, let's look at the first Great Depression, that wild game has a tendency to get hunted out. The other thing too is it takes a lot of calories to get a garden started initially, and then gardens don't produce that many calories for you. You would probably expend more calories starting that garden than that garden would actually feed you. The other thing too is how many months, once you start that garden, how many months is it going to be before that garden even does start feeding you? So my suggestion to you is that you actually start getting real food put back and stockpiled for if we do have a sudden SHTF situation. And kind of going back to wild game getting hunted out, in the first Great Depression that we had about 100 years ago, there was several areas in our country where wild game actually went extinct because they were overhunted because of people being hungry and poor during the first Great Depression. And the next thing that we have to really factor into that situation is there is about 3 times more people now in this country than what there was back in the Great Depression. So if we had another Great Depression today, I really think that the wild game would become so scarce that if that is your plan to survive, you will starve to death. Now me, what I've done to help take care of my family is I have a year's worth of food, enough food to feed my family of 3 at almost 3,000 calories per day per person, again, for a solid year straight. And then I also have my heirloom garden seeds put back so I can start gardening. And then I've also really been learning a lot of weeds, aka wild edibles, that I could actually eat out here at my bug out property. And I wouldn't just rely on any one of those out here. For instance, the wild edibles and my garden grown from heirloom seeds would actually help to extend my long-term food storage, so I would actually have a lot longer than just a year's worth of food put back. Now, if you're a beginner prepper, you know, I'm not trying to be somebody that causes panic or anything like that. I would definitely right now be going out and buying a couple of 50-pound bags of rice and some couple 50-pound bags of beans and some flour and just stuff like that, so at least you can put some food in your stomach if we had a cyber attack that happened tomorrow that put everything to a screeching halt. And keeping along with the topic of food, if I were a brand new prepper, I would not, me personally, I would not run out and buy any of that expensive freeze-dried food. As good as that stuff can taste, because I've tested numerous of them, and I do have some myself put back, but as good as those can taste, they're so expensive. So for the amount of money that you would get a small amount of that freeze-dried food, you can get a lot more of the dried bulk food that will take you much, much, much further, keep your stomach full a much longer time, for a lot less money. Now, on the food front, what I have personally done for my family is I have a whole bunch of the buckets that I have done myself, or I have put the dried goods into Mylar bags and did the O2, the oxygen absorbers in there. But I've also got a whole bunch of what the number 10 canned food from the LDS, I think it's called the Family Home Storage, but I'll put a link to that down below also. And one of the things I really like about the LDS Family Home Storage is they're already in number 10 cans and already vacuum packed. A lot of their foods will last up to 30 years. A lot of that food from the LDS, because they are not for profit, they cost about the same amount if you bought it bulk at the grocery store. And I also like with the LDS that you can get a good variety of food, like some different chopped vegetables and dehydrated onions and stuff like that, so you'll have more variety. And then also too, you don't have to be LDS to buy from them. I have personally bought from the LDS. I can attest that you don't have to be LDS to buy from them. And if you don't have a family home storage in your area, you can also buy it online. Again, a link would be down below. Now let's talk about weapons for self-defense. And this can be a really touchy subject because you got some people that scream up and down that 22 long rifle is the perfect prepping gun because you can hunt with it, and you can travel with so many thousands of rounds with them because of how small the rounds are. And then you have other people, you have the other camp that says that 12 gauge shotgun is the best weapon for SHTF because you can protect yourself with it and hunt with it. And then on top of that, then you've got some people that might be watching this video that live in the area where they can't even own a gun. So I'm just going to talk about what makes me happy, what I have done, and this falls within the laws of my area that I live in, is I personally like having a good fighting rifle like an AR-15. And then I also like to have a longer range rifle, which, for example, like my Springfield M1A, or the civilian version of M14, shoots a 308. And then I also like having a 22 long rifle, and then also my shotgun, and then finally my sidearm. And by the way, if you ever wonder how much ammunition you should get, that's really kind of a question of what makes you feel comfortable. For me, I like having at minimum 1,000 rounds for each, if not more. And I won't say how many rounds I do have. Now, I am not saying that you should have at least 1,000 rounds for each firearm that you have. That is just a number that makes me feel good to have it no less than 1,000 rounds per firearm that I have. But we also can't forget the good old edged weapons that you should have, such as knives and stuff like that, because not only can you protect yourself with them should you live in an area where you can't own guns, or if you have a malfunction with your weapon, but there's so many other uses for them too, cleaning game, cutting things, etc. And then lastly, on the subject of weapons, I think it's very smart to have something that's silent, such as a bow and arrow or something like that. And in 100% transparency, I don't have one of those yet. Now, this video was not a 100% comprehensive list for the new preppers. It was really to kind of go over the main basics that you need to really get buttoned down first, and then go from there, and just in case the good life that we have right now continues to go on. And then if you are a brand new prepper, don't run out and just buy a bunch of guns and ammo. Make sure you have at least one weapon for self-defense and some ammunition for it, but really focus on being able to procure shelter should you have to bug out, being able to procure more food, being able to procure drinkable water, being able to procure medicine, and things like that. So what are some other things that I have missed? Comment down below with tips that you think would be great for brand new prepper. And we have to remember that in a grid down situation, that something simple like a skin cut can turn infected and kill you. So to learn how you can use natural weeds that grow wild around you to make good homemade medicine that will help with things like skin infections, high blood sugar, high blood pressure, and regular everyday ailments like that, then click on the video that should be appearing on the screen just about now to learn what 90% of other preppers don't know. Anyways, folks, this is enough internet for me today. It is dark outside. It's gonna be time for me to go to bed in my cabin here pretty soon. Folks, if you made it this far, hey, thank you very much for watching, and I pray that you have a good night.